got beat. We got thumped in every aspect of the game, especially on offense. Didn't get it going. I mean, we scored a couple of touchdowns there in late time, but I mean, never got going. I missed some throws. We didn't throw and catch the ball as we normally do, and wasn't our best performance by any means. Obviously, our worst of the year. And credit to those guys. I mean, it's the NFL. Those guys get paid to do this and play at a high level, and they came in here and were more prepared for this game and did a great job, did better than we did, and just beat us, plain and simple.
They beat them plain and simple. That is Dak Prescott following yesterday's loss to the Denver Broncos. It is the Blitz here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM. I'm Jason Minix. Time for Mondays with the Moose, now joined by three-time Super Bowl champion and analyst with Fox Sports, Daryl Johnston, joining us now. And Daryl, you see the Cowboys yesterday just completely lay an egg. How do you explain what you saw yesterday from the Cowboys?
You just have one of those games, and I don't think we should take anything away from the Denver Broncos either.
Sure.
From a record standpoint, I think people would look at them and still feel that Dallas, should have handled their business, which they should have. But when a game like that happens, we had one happen in one of our Super Bowl years. I think we were 8-1 and we got beat by the Rams that were 2-7 at the time. And, sometimes you just come out and you can't find a way to do anything right. You don't look like the team that had been playing the last few weeks. And, there's really no explanation for it. And that's the big thing. Don't try to explain this, figure out, as a player and coaching staff, you want to take a look at the film and, try to find out the why in some of it, but you don't want to waste too much time on it because that was uncharacteristic. But I do, when you watch the film of the game, you can't take anything away from how the Broncos played on both sides of the football. So, They seem like they didn't come out. They didn't match them from an emotional standpoint, from an urgency standpoint, from a physical standpoint. And then all of a sudden that hole gets deep and things just start to snowball.
Daryl, I was at the game yesterday, and one of the things I noticed, you mentioned the energy level. The Cowboys did look flat, and I don't know if that's part of the noon start and whatnot. But also Denver was the more physical team. On both sides. I mean, defensively, they were manhandling the offensive line. The move to left tackle for Terrence Steele didn't prove to be a good one. I don't know if that's something that was just a one game. He was in a different spot and, just had an off day. But I think it starts there. Denver was the more physical team, and they certainly had a lot more energy. And, as an NFL player, how does that happen as a group? It's one thing if one guy's off, but it seemed like everybody was off.
Yeah, it really did. I think the big thing is, the fourth down stops early in that game. I mean, it couldn't have started any better. I mean, you get a big kickoff return. You're on the plus side of the field. You move down. You're in position to extend the drive. And, the fourth down conversions hurt them early in the game, failing in those, giving life back to the Broncos, getting them, up from an emotional standpoint. But, I think when you look at Terrence Steele, and this is something I remember, some of our guys talking about it. Eric Williams started as a left tackle and moved to right tackle. Larry Allen sometimes played left and right tackle before he kind of settled in at guard. And it is very different. I mean, you're talking about your opposite foot back is your kick foot. Everything you do is the opposite if you move from right tackle to left tackle. So it's not as easy a flip to switch as a lot of people would think. So, I'll give him a little bit of a break, but that's something as a play caller and as running backs and tight ends, you've got to account for if you've got one of your edge guys struggling a little bit. So, but the big thing for me was, watching, that defense that had played so well all season long, whether it was Trayvon Diggs, having a tough afternoon, the amount of yards they gave up to Williams after contact. It was just the speed was there. There was quickness, but there was just something missing on the defensive side of the ball as well. And I really can't put my finger on that one yet.
That's the interesting part. And again, I'm not overly worried about the offense. You could chalk that up to a bad day. Dak was off target. I don't know if it was rust from being off for a couple of weeks. Amari Cooper had his first drop, but the defense is my one concern, and we've talked about this, Daryl. If they don't get the turnovers, how good of a defense are they? And their run defense, their tackling was awful yesterday.
It really was. It really was. And that's, the first time you've seen that. There was people around the ball, but nobody was tackling well. The one interception they did get, was at a meaningless point in the game. So that didn't have an impact. It wasn't able to breathe any life into the team. So I think when Dan Quinn looks at this game, he'll be able to see a few good things and build on those. But I think the biggest thing is the tackling component, and that is something that he won't be happy with. And whether it's the Cleveland Browns, I've seen their running game, really make defenses struggle to tackle the ball carriers. I'd seen a little bit of Denver watching other teams, getting ready for my games when there was a little bit of a crossover, and you could see they had that ability with their running backs. But still, this Dallas defense had played well during the course of the first half of the season, and that was a big step back. And the biggest thing, this is a response-driven league. So as ugly as everything was on Sunday, and we've talked about this a couple of times, whether it was the Chargers win or the Patriots win, we've talked about those games where the Cowboys found a way, to come back and win those games. This is now the next step. How do you respond after a really bad performance out there? So I'm interested to see what they do this Sunday.
And again, they've got Atlanta on deck this Sunday. So, and again, I mean, they're coming off a win over New Orleans yesterday in a pretty crazy game. So, it won't be as easy as I think a lot of Cowboy fans thought it was looking at this stretch, because I think most of us, including myself, thought Denver would end up being an easy win because this team should be able to score 30 points a game every game. And quite frankly, they were shut out yesterday. They got a couple of touchdowns late to make it look more respectable, but in reality, that was not a good performance from the Cowboys offense all the way down. I know Kellen Moore's got to look at some things, and Vic Fangio said afterwards they've kind of set the blueprint now on how to beat the Cowboys. How much stock do you put in a statement like that, or with what you saw yesterday? Is there that blueprint now available for teams, and how do the Cowboys adjust to that?
No, I'm not a big blueprint guy. I think that was more bad Cowboys football than great Denver football. That we started this with saying let's not take anything away from the Denver Broncos performance, but let's not add anything to it. Vic Fangio is a very, very good defensive mind. Brandon Staley, who's now the head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers, worked underneath Vic Fangio. He was the defensive coordinator for the Rams last year when they had the number one defense in the league. What they do is they try to frustrate you. It's not a bend but don't break philosophy. It's more what they like to say is, we're going to force you to snap the ball one more time. We're not giving up anything cheap and anything big over the top. We're going to test your patience. We're going to make you execute for 10, 12, 14 plays. And we think that you're going to make a mistake in that time, and then we're going to be able to take advantage of that. And they wait for their moments. They're very opportunistic. That is what's kind of coming back into the NFL. Is more of these, cover 4, cover 2, umbrella style zone coverages, as opposed to, some more of the heavy pressure styles, the single high safety style. We're not seeing teams commit to the run as wholeheartedly. So there's really no reason to be in, the single high safety, adding that extra guy down into the box area. Some people have found it beneficial because of all the crossing routes, but I think that this is just an adjustment as we see the league ebb and flow from season to season, year to year. And this is just one of those shifts that happens every 3, 5, 8 years, where a new style of defense, which is really kind of brought back from the old days, kind of resurfaces again and kind of is what everybody goes to slow down these fast-paced offenses. So, from Vic Fangio's standpoint, when he says we put a blueprint out there, the blueprint would be, which every defense says before the game, nothing cheap over the top, make them earn everything. We're going to cover every blade of grass. There's a lot of cliche out there. So I wouldn't, for Cowboy fans, don't get too worried about Coach Fangio's comment. there is no blueprint. That was more bad Dallas Cowboy offense than it was fantastic, great, outstanding, brand new style of defense that Vic Fangio put out there that every team was going to be looking to run against Dallas.
That is Daryl Johnston, the Moose, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Cowboys, now an analyst with Fox Sports, as he joins us every week here on the Blitz for Mondays with the Moose. And sometimes you just chalk it up to it's not your day. And when you block a punt and the team that's punting the ball ends up with a first down, you realize it just ain't your day.
Yeah. And that's kind of a fast-paced Leon Lett experience right there. I mean, I think everybody goes back to the Thanksgiving Day game. When the ball goes beyond the line of scrimmage, it's just like it was punted, and that ball cannot become live until somebody on the block team, touches it. So just because that was such a kind of a bang bang play and it's bouncing around, the opportunity for it to hit one of the Dallas players, and that's knowing that rule that once I touch that ball as the block team beyond the line of scrimmage, it's become live again. So you've got to get on top of that. You've got to cover that. So, but it was such an odd, we're taught the scenario that happened to Leon on Thanksgiving in the snow against Miami because there's a little bit more control there. That's a little bit more, customary where you could, because it's slowed down, you're overthinking it. But that one just happened so quickly and with such an unusual circumstance that very, very odd. And just, as you pointed out, kind of really summed up the whole afternoon for the Dallas Cowboys.
Daryl, is that a rule that special teams guys practice on a regular basis, or is that one of those that you go over it once or twice during training camp and it's so rare that you don't spend a lot of time on it, or is that just one of those dumb rules that need to be fixed?
No, I think that one doesn't need to be fixed. The one that needs to be fixed is the one that happened to Miami against Buffalo, where a guy muffs a punt, and then you have the impetus of the kick is actually what carried it into the end zone. It wasn't the muff itself. And so instead of the Dolphins being awarded a safety because they tackled the Bills player in the end zone with the ball, it ends up being a touchback, and they get the ball at the 20-yard line. That's a rule that needs to be fixed because to me, it's not penalizing a team for making a mistake. If you muff a punt and it goes into the end zone, you should not be given a lifeline in that situation. The one that happened to Dallas yesterday is just one of those things that happens in a game. And you talk about that scenario more than just a couple of times during training camp. Okay. It's something that we would go over during special teams on a regular basis, but it happened just so differently than the way you prepare for it. It was so quick, and it was so down into the mix where all the players were. Usually that ball, if it's partially blocked and it comes beyond the line of scrimmage, it's reacting in a completely different way than that football was. So I just think you gotta kind of chalk that one up to a very unique situation with a rule that the guys knew, but probably couldn't process as quickly as they needed to.
If I was the rule czar, I would make it to where at the very least, if the Cowboy player touches it, the Bronco guy gets it, he would at least have to run for a first down. It just feels like you penalize the team for a great special teams play and just weirdness. And, but it was just one of those kind of days. And I know, Daryl, you had the Miami-Houston game yesterday, right?
Yes.
Can you explain what David Culley tried to explain? Can you I don't know if you heard these comments from Coach Culley today trying to explain what happened yesterday.
Well, we got no chance to win a football game. It doesn't matter who you play when you turn the ball over 4 times. It doesn't matter if you get 5 turnovers. It doesn't matter. It's a formula that's been in this league, in all leagues, that when you play that way, you have no chance to win.
So if you win the turnover battle, but you have 4, you can't win. I'm not sure what David Culley's trying to say there. And I like David Culley, but come on.
Yeah. No. We've had him the last couple of weeks, and it's the first time I've had the opportunity to visit with Coach Culley, and I've really enjoyed it. I just think he's probably talking the volume and not realizing, really what it boils down to is you were still +1, and +1 is a good position to be in the turnover battle. But I think, for him, and this is something that he's talked about during the course of the season, the inability to make plays. And I think when you turn the ball over 4 times, that's kind of a demonstration of our inability to make plays. And it was very uncharacteristic. I mean, going into the game, for Tyrod Taylor against the Miami Dolphins, he had thrown 10 touchdowns without any interceptions, and he had 3 in the first half, I think, in the game yesterday. So just a very unusual day for Tyrod Taylor. And this is David Culley coming off of a performance the week before against the Rams, where I think he was completely surprised by how poorly his team played in that game, because they were down 38-0 at one point, and he did not anticipate that kind of a score to happen in that game, because he felt like they had prepared really well during the week. And you get that feeling. I've had that before, where you get a feeling of how a game is going to go, and it doesn't go anything like that. And then for them to follow it up with a game in which they were just very, very self-destructive, not only not able to make plays to win the game, but actually having plays that are going against that opportunity and just handing the game to the Miami Dolphins. So, I think it was the volume of the turnovers they had that kind of got them off track a little bit.
Yeah, just a weird day in the NFL, from the Cowboys losing to Jacksonville beating Buffalo, the Rams as poorly as they looked last night to Tennessee. It was just a strange day all the way around in the NFL. Hopefully this week you've got a much better matchup. Who do you got? Where are you going this weekend?
We are going up to Pittsburgh for Detroit at Pittsburgh. So interested to see, again, we talked about Dallas and the response after a poor performance against Denver. I'm interested to see how Detroit responds after their bye week. To have to sit on that loss that they had to the Philadelphia Eagles. That was probably the second time this year that Philadelphia has put up a score that, when you're at the stadium, you're doing the games, and the out-of-town scores are coming across, and it's very, very shocking. That the Week 1 score against Atlanta, they went down to Atlanta and roughed up Atlanta. But the one against Detroit, Detroit had been in virtually every game. Cincinnati was the one team that kind of roughed them up a little bit. But when that score came across, I was shocked. I mean, there was a lot of conversation within the organization for Detroit that this could be our chance for our first victory this year. And they were never in that game. So I'm interested to see how they respond, because it's 2 of the really bad losses have come over the last 3 to 4 weeks, and you just wonder if they expended so much emotional energy in those heartbreaking losses to start the season. How much fuel is left in that emotional tank to finish this year out?
Yeah, hopefully you have a good call. Guess you're going to be paying close attention to Monday Night Football tonight with the Steelers and Bears. Always enjoy the visit. Daryl Johnston, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys, now with Fox Sports. Mondays with the Moose. Daryl, we'll visit next week. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Jason. Take care.
Daryl Johnston, Mondays with the Moose. Trying to explain the unexplainable.